Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. Well, today I want to do something a little bit different and talk about a fantastic article I read lately called A Crypto Thesis by Krug of Pantera Capital. Now, if you don't know who those guys are, they're an investment fund that specialize in blockchain-based startups and digital assets. So they know what they're talking about. They've been very early on some fantastic projects. But the article itself dives into the future of open source blockchains and laying that infrastructure for everything else to be built on top of. And one of the things they talk about is the Industrial Revolution and the way that the printing press changed the way information flows. And then we had the internet, and again, it changed the way that we access information. But one of the byproducts that a lot of people didn't foresee was the way that content and information is created and then it gets dispersed. So it's certainly been game-changing stuff, and no one can really predict the future. But think about how information was created and stored and transferred between generations or individuals before that. And it really was only, religious scripts, a lot of it in the early days. And then it was the elite. And it's very similar these days to how the media control a lot of the content that we digest. And it's no coincidence, I think, that the number of people that are watching free-to-air TV and getting their news from the mainstream, those numbers are just going down and down and down because content creators and people that are putting out really good quality, interesting information are these sort of independents or, YouTube channels, whoever you may like it, bloggers. There's so much more for you to choose from. And we see those stats that we talked about the other day. The level of trust in journalism is, pretty low. People don't believe what they're reading. They know there's hidden agendas. They know that there's profit to be made. All that sort of thing comes into play. So the point being is that finance hasn't gone through this same evolution just yet. And it's one of the most centralized industries. If you think about how money is created by banks or government, how lending is done, how shares are traded, any financial product or instrument is created, or how real estate is changed. So a lot of the early days of the internet, there was talk about private internets and private little intranets and all that sort of thing. And what we know was that real value was created from the big open source nature of the internet and interoperability, all that sort of thing. So it's the same at the moment with a lot of people experimenting with private chains. But the point of this article is that they believe that it's going to be that big open source public infrastructure which is going to deliver the most value. So Bitcoin, when I first read about it, one of the first things I remember thinking is this is just going to change three components. So remittance, we know how much Western Union and the likes charge. Why can't two people pay each other? Everything we do in the modern age is peer-to-peer. We can now send someone messages, have high-definition video chats, but yet we can't send someone money peer-to-peer. There's an intermediary. So remittance is a great use case. Capital controls in certain countries. Why can't someone send money to another person? And then finally, savings accounts and the issuance of fiat currency depending on what country you're in, needing that store of value, that bedrock. That's very different depending on what country you're in, whether or not you can hold your money with any degree of confidence in a savings account. So three main functions that I very much thought that Bitcoin will be able to serve, and it's certainly heading in that direction. Now, other than that, we have Ethereum and other applications or other blockchains that are all working on disrupting other industries, but particularly this article was about finance. And if you had said to someone even a couple of years ago that Maker would be a decentralized central bank, a project that we've spoken about with that DAI stablecoin, it's already happening. So the point is that these aren't far-fetched ideas. The ability for someone to issue money in a decentralized fashion. I've done a tutorial on how you can take out a loan from the comfort of your hardware wallet. So you don't no longer need to go to the bank to leverage your assets to borrow against. The technology is here already. Now, we've got DYDX working on decentralized derivatives. Again, they're already out there. 0x, that protocol for trading assets peer-to-peer, it's already out there. This is happening, and this is all built on top of Ethereum. As I said, there's other projects experimenting with great things as well. Now, the future direction of trading is currently going down this STO model. And again, there's all these Ethereum standards being built out for the trading of securities, trying to change the way that shares are traded. Now, if the platforms that go on top of this are built right and they deliver value, it really just opens up how this can be traded peer-to-peer. So how can regulators say, as long as you AML and KYC someone on this platform, that you can't trade it with anyone else in the world globally? And that's really opening up capital markets. It's one of the most exciting things people are looking forward to in 2019 is seeing how the STO security token space develops. But I'm most excited about that platform infrastructure that's being built on top of it. Again, these open source nature. On top of that, we've got marketplaces. So prediction markets like Augur, gambling markets like Funfair, so many games out there. This has all been done in a decentralized fashion. Marketplaces for even things like adult entertainment. You are in control of your finances, who you want to pay to do what, and it's very exciting that it's going to bypass all these centralized hubs or silos that have become rent-seeking, where they're just, they cutting a paycheck, and often they're the ones at the top of the pyramid that are getting the most wealth out of everyone at the bottom that is actually doing the work, or that's where the actual economic activity is happening. So it's very exciting to watch this all develop. But here's where we currently stand, a few of the issues that people are talking about. You need liquidity. You need lots of people using these things. Otherwise, it just doesn't take off. We know that technology can grow very quickly. It has that exponential tendency if it's adopted, and we're currently too early on in those network effects to really get the benefits of Metcalfe's law, which we've spoken about in previous videos about the number of connections and then exponentially increasing value. And we haven't hit that critical mass yet. But think about just as Facebook, isn't that great if you've only got 100 users at college? Once we hit that critical mass, I think a lot of these apps can become very user-friendly. And that's one of the next things we're going to talk about. So education is really key. It's all still scary about what is this space. People do not understand cryptocurrency yet. Even the terms are still confusing. Cryptocurrency, a lot of these projects aren't even trying to be currency. Now, how are we going to go down that path of custody versus maybe biometrics and better security for people to hold the coins themselves, or are we going to go down that path where there are better custody solutions for those people that aren't holding their own money, or they're not comfortable storing their own data, they're fearful that they're going to lose it and so on. So that remains to be seen. There's people working on both sides of that as well. But the biggest issue currently is scaling. All the projects out there are trying to solve this about how to serve thousands of users and doing thousands or millions of transactions, and that's where we currently stand today. Now, ultimately, it comes down to user experience, and there's a saying that people won't adopt a new technology unless it's 10 times better than the alternative. People are lazy. If something's a little bit better, I've got this new Facebook, it's slightly better, it's decentralized, people don't care about those little things. They just want a better user experience. So that's what the focus is now, building out those front ends as well as the actual customer experience behind the technology. And finally, on-ramps. So once you're in this ecosystem, once you have your Bitcoin or Ethereum, you can go and use these dApps, experiment, take out a loan, all that sort of thing. But it's those on-ramps which I guess governments can cause those bottlenecks on. Banks can shut down your accounts. So it's all that sort of traditional financial infrastructure that does create a bit of a bottleneck, but gradually that's getting better and better. There's more options, there's competition coming. It's all heading in the right direction, I think. So currently a lot of people are talking about scaling, whether layer 1 or layer 2 is the way to go and so on. And again, it's a pretty heated debate, but I think generally everyone agrees that layer 1 needs to be very secure, the underlying protocol, the bedrock, a foundation that we can all rely on and trust. There's no point building things on top of that first layer if it's going to get hacked or anything can happen to it. So far, Ethereum's taking that path of trying to sharding.
ZK Snarks is another exciting technology, but there's been further development with what's known as Starks now as well. So all these things that are trying to reduce the amount of information that is stored in the blockchain, increase computational capacity and all that on the main layer. And then we have layer 2. So what things can we build, what apps can we build on top of it that allow for scaling, building on top of that bedrock of layer 1. And we have things like state channels, side chains. Were very important to have different blockchains talking to each other, as well as interoperability between different protocols. We've got plasma blockchains within blockchains, and obviously the Lightning Network is making great progress on Bitcoin. We've got Raiden on Ethereum as well. So I think, wrapping this all together, where's this all heading? I think it's very exciting to watch this revolution unfold before us. I think it's more than just this crypto blockchain movement. I think it's a sort of social movement. There's a demographic of people that aren't happy the way things are being run. It's about changing of the guard, distributing power from the few to give everyone a say, and that trust. People no longer trust what they're consuming out there. So I think these open public blockchains and what they talk about is things that have true utility. These protocols are going to be very, very important going forward. So the future is already here in many ways. I think it's 2 to 3 years away before everyone is using this widely, but familiarize yourself with this technology. Take out a loan on Maker, check out some of these dApps, and then tell your friends about it. Adoption is going to come if we're all here actually using the technology and educating others. So let me know your thoughts. I'll leave the full article below. Do you believe that this is more than just a few apps and blockchain investing and so on? Do you really believe that this is a wider social movement? Otherwise, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, share these videos around, and thanks for tuning in, guys. Cheers.